James here from goodguitarist.com, and in today's lesson I'm going to show you how to play Summer of '69 by Bryan Adams. As far as the chords are concerned, this one's not too bad. There is one bar chord, a B minor chord, but aside from that, it's pretty much just open chords and power chords. And if you need any extra help with that kind of stuff, I recommend checking out our ebooks. We have one for rhythm guitar and one for lead guitar. They're both free to all of our subscribers, and they cover all the basics of both rhythm and lead guitar, so I really recommend checking those out, especially if you find yourself having trouble with this lesson, because most of the stuff here is covered in that book in really great detail. You know, it really gets into the nuts and bolts of it. So if you need any extra help with that, please check it out. Now, before we get started, I want to talk a little bit about tone. Since, you know, we're playing an electric guitar, odds are you're plugged up into an amp. You might even have some guitar pedals. And I just want to say to be wary of putting on too much gain or too much distortion. You know, the more and more I play guitar, the less and less overdrive I find myself putting on, just a little bit, you know, just to color the sound a tiny bit. For this song in particular, I'm using an overdrive pedal. It's a Wampler Tumnus. I'm just giving it a little bit of grit. You know, my gain knob is at like 3 out of 10, and my level is even so that it doesn't change whether my volume goes up or down. And my tone is pretty high just because I want to just have like a nice sparkly sheen on top of it. So if you're using an amp that has built-in gain or overdrive, or if you're using a pedal, just be wary of putting on too much overdrive, you know, just a little bit, especially because as you're learning guitar, I remember myself, I used to practice with overdrive all the time, and then one day I played through an amp that didn't have that. It was just clean, and my playing didn't really sound very good, and it was really eye-opening for me to know that wow, that gain and stuff was just covering up all my mistakes. So it's a really good idea to practice clean and then just add a tiny bit of overdrive afterwards. And other than that, we're ready to get started. So first thing we're going to do is learn the chord shapes. To play the verse, we're only going to need 2 chords. There's D, and for D, try to avoid the lower 2 strings. And then there's the A chord. And for the verse, we can play it with just one finger like that, since we're not really going to be hitting the higher string. But when we play the pre-chorus, I'll show you, we have to play it in a bit of a different way. Anyways, that's it. The verse just has 2 chords, and the strumming is really simple too. We start off on our D chord. Going to do a little bit of palm muting. If you haven't done that before, all I'm doing is just overlapping a tiny bit of the strings with the side of my hand. So I'm not overlapping it too much. If you do it too much, just kills the notes entirely. If you do it too little, they just ring out like normal. So just enough, just to dull the sound a little bit. And for the D chord, we're gonna do 16 downstrokes. So we can count that out, make it a little bit easier on ourselves. We're gonna count it out 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 times. I'll show you. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and then we change to the A chord. Same thing. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and that's basically it for the verse. We can add some emphasis to a couple of those downstrokes just to make it, you know, less plain. And the best way to figure out which notes to emphasize is to count it out loud. We're going to emphasize beat 1, and we're going to emphasize the and after 2, just on the first measure, and then the rest of it is just going to be small downstrokes. To emphasize, we just hit it harder. And we're going to go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, and we just do it, you know, small after that. So once again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and I recommend doing that a few times slowly before you try to speed it up. Once you speed it up, this is what you're going to end up with. So I'm still doing that a bit slower than the original recording, but it's fast enough that you can actually start to feel that rhythm. So once again, just count it out really slowly. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. Same thing on A. And we just do that back and forth, and that's the verse. So let's actually try that together now, a bit slower than the original recording. 1, 2, 3, 4. For the pre-chorus, we're going to need a few new chords. Our first chord shape is B minor, and that's a bar chord. And if you need any extra help with that, I actually have a bar chord mini series where we cover all of the basic problems that people have. You might have a problem with finger strength, maybe it hurts your arm. We cover all that through proper posture and some exercises that help you build up into playing bar chords. So I'll put a link down below for that if you need any extra help with this B minor chord. Otherwise, the only other new chord shape for this is G, and that's a basic open chord. You can find that in our rhythm guitar ebook. And we're gonna revisit our A chord, but this time we for sure have to play it like this, because we need that high string to remain open. You can definitely try it like this and get that high string open if you can. That's the way I would probably play it, but if that gives you trouble, just use your 3 fingers, no shame in that. Otherwise, we know the rest of the chords here, it's just a D. Now I'm gonna show you the chord order. So starting out on B minor, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, B minor, 2, 3, 4, A, 2, 3, 4, D, 2, 3, 4, G, 2, 3, 4, B minor, 2, 3, 4, A. And now I'll show you the strumming pattern for this part, which involves a little bit of arpeggiating, and that's where you're just picking individual notes out of your chord. So we'll do this on our B minor chord, starting out with a downstroke, and then we're just going to do a small downstroke on these lower strings, just on the 5th and 4th string. So far, it's just a big downstroke and then a little one. And then we're going to pick the 2nd string, 3rd string, 4th string. So all together. And if we were to count that out, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Work that out, take your time with it. You can think about it in 2 parts. 1 and 2, and then we have and 3 and 4. So you could even just go 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And just practice those individually picked notes. Since the first part's pretty easy, just a couple downstrokes. Just work it out in 2 halves. When you're ready, put it together. And then for the A chord, we're gonna do the exact same picking. Then we go to our D chord. And for this one, it's the same, except it's all shifted over by 1 string set. So we start off here. So we're doing the same thing, except at the end we're picking 1, 2, 3 instead of 2, 3, 4. Same deal though. And for G, we strum it, hit the bottom 2 strings, and then we arpeggiate the top 3, just like the D chord. Then we go back to our B minor, and then we just do 1 strum on A. So I'm going to play through it nice and slow. You can either play along if you feel that you're ready, or you can just watch me do it, figure out what's going on, rewind the tape, and then try it with me yourself. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. chorus doesn't use any new chords per se. We're just going to be changing our D chord and A chord a little bit just by lifting up some fingers and putting some extra fingers down. We're going to start off on our D chord, and the first thing we're going to do is remove our middle finger so that we get the open high E string. And we're just going to strum the whole thing. Let's not do the picking pattern yet. For now, let's just look at how we're going to change our chord. So we start off like this. Then we add our middle finger back where it belongs. Then we put our pinky finger, our fourth finger, on the 3rd fret of the highest string. Then we take it off, take off our middle finger, and put it back down. So that might seem complicated, but really all we're doing is we're just playing a melody. We're just going while holding down our D chord shape. And now we can add some picking to that, and this is where it gets a little bit tough. I'll be honest, this bit, occasionally when I play this song live, this is the part where I'm gonna have a little flub. If I'm gonna have any mistakes on this song, it's gonna be during this part. Anyways, we start off with our middle finger off of our chord shape. We're gonna do a downstroke, and then we pick the 2nd and 3rd string. So then we put our middle finger down, and we just go. So we're not strumming, we're just going 1, 2, 3. Then we put our pinky finger down. 1, 2, 3, again. Remove our pinky finger. And then here it's a little bit different. We lift our middle finger. We play the 1st and the 3rd. Put our middle finger down. 1st and 3rd. So all together, nice and slow. And for the A chord, it's pretty much the exact same thing, except our chord shape's a bit different, so we'll take a look at that really quick. We start off with our A chord, and we take off our 3rd finger. Then we put our 3rd finger where it belongs. And then we put our pinky finger on the 3rd fret of the B string. Remove it, remove, add it back. And the picking is exactly the same, except instead of being on these 4 strings, we're on the middle 4 strings. So this is what it looks like, nice and slow. So this part might be a little bit tricky. I recommend just taking it really slowly. First get the chord shapes. And when you're comfortable, you can add the picking. So take your time with this, and when you're ready, we can play it all together. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, now the only part left in this tune is the bridge, and the bridge is pretty easy. Compared to what we just went through, the bridge is going to be really, really simple. We start off with an F power chord, and that means we just put our 1st finger on the 1st fret of the lowest string, then 3rd fret, 3rd fret. And we're just going to do a really common strumming pattern on this, just down, down, up, up, down. And if you need any help with that strumming pattern, we cover it in depth in our rhythm guitar ebook, and there's a video where we go through it really slowly and break it down, so you can check that out. Next, we're going to take our chord shape and we're going to move it that way. So now we're on the A string with our 1st finger, got these 3 notes, same deal with the strumming pattern. And it might help if the tip of your finger is lightly touching the low string. That'll make it stop ringing. And this part of my finger is touching the those two strings. So I'm just getting the part of the chord that I want. Then I drag my chord shape up 2 frets. So now my first finger's at the 3rd fret. And then I go back down. So far this is what we have. And then we do pretty much the same thing, except at the end there, instead of going back down to B flat, we stay on the C chord for another measure. So it looks like this. So that part's pretty darn simple. All in all, we're just playing a few power chords with a strumming pattern. You can watch me play through it if you're not completely sure what's going on yet, and then just rewind the tape and play along with me. I'm going to do it nice and slow, slower than the original recording. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so that's how you play Summer of '69. And if you're playing this with a friend, for the very last chorus, one of you can play through the and the other one can do the, and it actually combines really well. So that's something to think about if you're learning guitar with somebody else. Other than that, just remember to take it slow, practice each bit really slowly and perfectly before you try to speed it up. And I'll see you next week.